Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scoop Slam Report. We are on episode 4 today of the show. Let's make sure we're up and running. We look good. We look great. Look grand today. Today is June 27th, 2024. Already on the 4th episode, 4th straight week in a row here. Talking everything, wrestling speculation, news, rumors. Appreciate you all being here. We talked a lot last time about the possibility of Shane McMahon being in AEW. That one was a really fun episode. We've talked a lot about, pay-per-views for WWE and AEW. We've talked a lot about rumors, confirmed news, and we're going to keep doing that here today. If you're here in the chat, make sure to give a like to this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, whether you're watching this live or in post when this is up on YouTube. We got some interesting topics today. One of them being that, just broke today was about Dominic Dijak, being released from WWE, and not necessarily even being released, more so the fact that he was not renewed for a WWE contract, which I thought was pretty surprising given his track record, which we'll talk a little bit about in today's show as something that does come up in a little bit here. Got some other things regarding WWE and some upcoming things we can expect for Money in the Bank. Believe it or not, Money in the Bank is approaching more quicker than we first had thought. Just because, if you look at next week's Raw, it'll be 6 days before the pay-per-view from that Monday Night Raw. So not a whole lot of time removed from, Clash at the Castle. But I am going to find it interesting to see how WWE does the Money in the Bank matches and everything, going on as far as, how WWE book the Money in the Bank matches themselves and how WWE decides to go forward with Damian Priest and Seth Rollins and this Bloodline 6-man tag, which we'll get into in our confirmed section for today. So let's start off with something that I kind of wanted to talk about last episode, but I didn't have enough time to, and that is the Hardy Boys. Now, if you're not familiar with what the Hardy Boys have done, more recently, they are now in TNA. Now, it's not really been said whether they have a long-term contract. The way it looks is that they can still go wherever they want to. So in this instance, they could decide to go back to AEW or go to a WWE or, even a New Japan, whatever promotion they would want to sign a dotted line, they still could do that. But since Matt was, doing this TNA run and wrestling Moose in the main event, Jeff wanted to go to TNA along with his brother to do this run. Now, I don't know how long this run is really going to last for them because this is probably going to be one of their last runs in professional wrestling. Now, they were on Busted Open. At least Matt Hardy was on Busted Open. I tried to watch the full episode where he talked to Bubba Ray, talked to Dreamer and Dave LaGreca. And they talked about the idea of, the Hardy Boys having one last run in WWE. To finish their careers in WWE is the place to do it. I think there's a lot of mixed people on this idea. Jeff Hardy has had a lot of issues when it comes to, stuff outside the ring with DUIs. Now, from what Matt Hardy has said is that, Jeff's cleared up those issues, and I hope he has. I hope that, Jeff, to me, was always one of my favorites growing up. And I think, when I was growing up, he had his heel run. And I think that if he was clean during that heel run, it could have been one of the best heel runs that the business has ever had. But, because of Jeff's demons outside the ring, they've missed out on some opportunities. And one thing Matt Hardy did mention was a reason why their AEW run wasn't as big as it could have been was because of the DOI that Jeff Hardy got that, kind of sent him out of AEW for a little bit. Ultimately, for him to return, I believe it was around the same time last year where Jeff Hardy returned and the Hardy Boys reunited in an AEW ring. But we really didn't get to see much of them together as much. And I think a lot of people were expecting them to maybe win the AEW tag team titles before they would have wrapped with AEW. But Matt ended up leaving, and Jeff is no longer with AEW anymore. And I wouldn't mind seeing another Hardy Boys run in WWE if this is the last one. The Dudleys got one last run in WWE. Now, they did return in 2017, and some people might say, oh, well, that was their last run. But if you think about it, Jeff Hardy got hurt. Matt ended up doing the broken gimmick just called Woken in WWE and teaming with Bray Wyatt, which him and Bray had some really, really good chemistry. I believe Bray ended up getting hurt, so Matt was kind of in limbo until Jeff came back. Then they became the Hardys again. Jeff got hurt, and then Matt was kind of a singles guy just doing the Hardy Boy stuff. And then he ultimately decided to not re-sign with WWE and go to AEW. Jeff remained in WWE for a little bit until he left in late 2021, early 2022. I believe it was like November or December. It was kind of after Survivor Series, though. So if you think about it, the Hardy Boys, they were in WWE. They got to have a return at WrestleMania, which was a big pop, a big moment. But I just don't think they were able to really wrap up in WWE the way that they wanted to. And I think provided one more run, have them wrestle DIY, have them wrestle New Day, have them wrestle the Usos one more time, have them get involved with something to kind of finish their career. And maybe even, they could do. Oh, did I freeze up? What's going on here? I think this happened last time to us. There we go. Now we're back. Have them, at least I caught it. It's out of the corner of my eye, just really random. Have them be in the tag team division to really boost that division up and do some dream matches with it. I think it'd be really cool. I do have a Hardy Boys t-shirt, it's signed by both the Hardys. Let me move the logo out the way real quick. I'll move it myself. I'll just turn it off. Actually, you got the signed. This is actually signed by both Hardys, and Matt actually signed it version 1. So I'm a big Hardy Boys fan. I am a big Hardy Boys fan. It's kind of like a little bit of my childhood there. And just like the Dudleys had, kind of one last run, and they kind of finished up putting over a new tag team. I wouldn't mind seeing that from the Hardys, them kind of coming in and putting over that new team. I think it'd be really cool if they were able to do that. But as far as it goes right now, they're going to be in TNA, and they're going to have, a fun run in TNA. It looks to be with the Hardys. They are in Philadelphia. I might go to the show tomorrow, depending on what kind of goes on tomorrow. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. I really do think they can really still make a mark in wrestling, and I think they could do one more WWE run. I think it might be in them. So, and I'm kind of pulling for them. I want them to succeed in the end. Let's move more into WWE and Netflix. January 2025, Raw's moving to Netflix. There's a lot of people expecting changes to the Monday Night Raw show. Some people are saying maybe no longer a 3-hour format. Some people are saying you're going to be allowed to curse on the show without, the censorship of USA. Other people are saying that there's not going to be commercials during the show. Triple H was on Pat McAfee's show, and he kind of revealed that, they're going to be able to curse without having to censor anything, which I think would be interesting. I mean, we had The Rock when he came back. He was cursing a lot against Cody Rhodes, and a lot of it was censored unless, WWE, USA, or Peacock, they forgot to censor it and bleep it out. So, he was cursing a lot, and, WWE typically haven't done like too much vulgar stuff. I mean, there has been stuff when it's been like more intense, but USA has been, pretty cool with not censoring out so much. I think Fox has done more of the censorship when a curse word is said. So let's talk about the Netflix deal a little bit here, because I see a lot of that online. I don't really know, and I don't think a lot of people know what's in store. My take on this would probably be that if you buy the premium version of Netflix, you subscribe to it over a month or whatever, believe the standard Netflix is about $15 a month, somewhere around there. So if you do decide to get the premium version of Netflix, which is more expensive than the standard, which is $15, you get no ads. But I do think if you're gonna have the standard version, you will get ads during Raw. So, just like WWE will do with Peacock, where they'll basically have, the event going on, they'll show the next match, and they'll say for viewers of Peacock Premium, here's the story of such and such. And if you have the standard version of Peacock, which I believe is $4.99, what'll end up happening is you get commercials. So if you have the regular, or sorry, not the regular version, but the deluxe version of Peacock, you then will get the promos added in with it, no commercials. I think they'll try to do something like that with Netflix. As far as the runtime of the show goes, I have no idea. I have no idea. WWE seemed to, be pretty keen on keeping the 3 hour, kind of format. But again, that could change. It could change. A lot of it is kind of a mystery right now because we haven't heard anything from Netflix or WWE. Further details will be coming, I'm sure, because we're still, 6 months out of this taking effect. So I'm sure there's going to be some planning here on what direction they'd really decide to go with Netflix and WWE. So it'll be cool to see, what kind of happens with that with Netflix and WWE with Raw. I'm sure the first Raw is going to be a pretty big one. Since it'll be, I guess they're going to probably deem it the season premiere of a brand new Monday Night Raw. And I'm interested to see if they eventually move everything over to Netflix or they decide to keep Peacock as the library partner where Netflix has all your weekly television. Might be interesting to see, but we're still going to have SmackDown on USA and NXT on the CW network. But I'm sure maybe in the future that as long as the Netflix deal goes well, that NXT and SmackDown may move over to Netflix. So it's interesting to think about and see how these deals are going to, kind of come into effect and how it's going to affect the weekly television that we do see from WWE. Got some quote here from Tony Khan about Shane McMahon. So if you catch the last episode, Shane McMahon uh, was rumored to be talking to AEW talents about joining AEW. So Tony Khan said that former WWE star Shane McMahon is always welcome in AEW. So here's where the actual quote comes in. I heard the rumor that he might be interested, Khan said. I never met Shane, but we have a lot of mutual friends. I have a lot of respect for him as an executive and a professional wrestler. Shane is always welcome in AEW, end quote. So for anyone that's like thinking that this is a set in stone thing, it's not. It clearly is not. I think that, Shane was kind of throwing his name in a hat to see maybe is there a spot for me in AEW? Is there a way I could kind of get in and make an impact in that company because WWE may not be the place for me anymore? We talked about Shane not really having a part in WWE anymore. After the Royal Rumble 2022, he wrestled The Miz and ended up tearing, I believe it was his ACL during, mid match right when they started. So, it would be interesting to see how, Shane would be in AEW if I was booking it. I gave you the booking scenario, which is on my YouTube channel right now, the separate video, but it is also a part of the separate podcast episode. So if you go check out the podcast episode, it will be there as well. But to me, I think Shane McMahon in AEW is certainly an interesting idea if they do it in the proper respect. Kind of like how I said in my booking video, um, I wouldn't want to see him wrestle at this point. I think there's more money in seeing him in a managerial role, being a heel, being against what AEW stood for. I think that would really be interesting to see. But again, it sounds like from Tony Khan that, he would be open to the idea of Shane coming in, but there is no deal. They haven't been talking. Um, that or Tony Khan could be hiding it. I don't know. But I feel like Tony Khan's pretty open when it comes to, people he's talked to in open business, when it comes to that stuff. But you never know. We could see him in AEW. I don't think he would be an executive. I don't think, he would hold some kind of creative control power. But I think it'd be very interesting to see him as a talent and what he could contribute to the program just as in a heel role and that kind of respect. So you never say never in the world of pro wrestling, and it could very well happen. We could very well see Shane McMahon in AEW at some point down the road. So let's talk about some confirmed news here, and one of them is about Dijak. And like I said earlier in the program, Dijak and WWE have parted ways. WWE apparently from Dominic Dijakovic have never, or at least never, offered him a contract renewal up until the 11th hour, which is really right before his contract was set to expire. So I'm going to see here if I can put this up on screen for everyone to take a look at. Where is it at? I guess that's weird. I guess I can't put a picture. Don't know why. That's really weird. I can't put it up, but I guess I could find the quote online as well. Um, but I can read it off as well off of here while I try to look for it. Here's the truth. WWE never negotiated with me. We attempted to negotiate and they stonewalled us. They never made a single offer. Then they informed me that they would not renew my contract at the 11th hour. 2 months ago, I was one of the best matches on NXT history and a top match of WrestleMania weekend. On that day, a top executive in WWE told me I was crushing it. I was slated to feud for the NXT title, but I got called up to Raw instead. I consistently outperformed everyone's expectations, especially through 2023 and early 2024. I never complained about anything or was difficult to work with. I tirelessly pitched ideas to anyone who would listen as recently as the day before I was notified. I never once missed a booking, and I was injured one time in 7 years for 3 months. I'm thankful, disappointed, but also excited. This has lit a fire under me to relentlessly prove myself to the world. All I ever wanted was a fair shot, and now I have an opportunity to go out and take it. That's enough talk. Now it's time to do or die, Jack. My last day under a WWE contract is June 28th, 2024, which is tomorrow. And he put his booking email, and he says, get ready to feast your effing eyes. So, Dijak, man. Dijak no longer a part of WWE. It's really interesting to see what he's eventually going to do. I'm going to give you my perspective as someone that did not really watch NXT 2.0 or really the new era of NXT. This is a guy that was putting on bangers in black and gold NXT with Keith Lee. This is a guy that was wrestling Damian Priest and Keith Lee and top guys in NXT and was a big part of it in 2019. Now, as far as Dijak goes, I really could have saw him when he was Dominic Dijakovic. I really could have saw him as an NXT North American champion. The guy, like I said, was having banger matches with Keith Lee. And I don't think he really got that opportunity to do that in Black and Gold NXT. And Tommaso Ciampa ended up turning heel in NXT and taking him out. And he was T-Bar. And the pandemic era of WWE as a part of Retribution, which Retribution did not last long and was not very beneficial for anyone really in the long run. Retribution, just wasn't a good idea, really. It wasn't fleshed out very well, and they didn't really book him strong. It was supposed to be this invasion angle, and the invasion angle never really took off. So, as far as Dijak goes, he is an incredible performer, and he's going to do some very big things in the world of professional wrestling. I don't know whether, I'm not going to say he's all elite or AEW is going to scoop him up immediately, because I think you can decide to, work the independent scene just like how Nick Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler, has done, has Mustafa Ali has done. I mean, he's done some great work in Impact as well. You have the opportunity here to really define your craft on the indie scene and go to these different promotions without having to join AEW. But AEW is also, the second top tier wrestling promotion in North America. So if he does make the jump there, then it would still be very good for his career. Um, like he said in that quote I just read, Dijak is ready to show the world what he's made of. And like I said, I really didn't catch much of the NXT era of Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes where he really was spotlighted, Dijak, that is. Now, he didn't win the championship or anything like that, but he did, talk about having some of the best matches in NXT up to that point. So, you know, I don't know why WWE decided not to even negotiate here and try to, get him to sign way early on. Maybe they just weren't interested at a certain point. I don't know. That's, really up to them to decide. But man, I look at a guy like Dijak, and there could be a really big opportunity for him to really shine anywhere he goes. And maybe it is a thing where he's got to go out on his own and prove it, and then he comes back. There's some guys that have been able to do that. Cody and Drew McIntyre are the top tier examples of going outside WWE, defining your craft, and then coming back in. Is that something that he could do? Maybe. I mean, even if you think about it, Jinder Mahal is a big case of that too. Jinder Mahal got to be world champion. So there's a lot of cases where people have come back and made a name for themselves. So, you know, to me, I think that would be a pretty big way to make a splash on the independent scene for Dijak. If he's going to take some independent bookings and kind of go that way, I mean, I think that'd be a great way for him to do that. Or he joins AEW. There's a lot of potential for him to really shine. Also, what's going on, Jake the Aerial Assassin? What's going on, my guy? Um, but yeah, Dijak, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for him to really shine. And I hope he does shine on the independent front. Money in the Bank is coming up. We got an Intercontinental Championship match, Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker, that was announced. We've kind of speculated a little bit that this was going to be added to Money in the Bank, and maybe potentially Ricochet interferes in this match. The Ricochet talk has kind of gone quiet, so I don't know what's going to happen, whether he's all elite or whether he's going to remain in WWE. But if he does remain in WWE, I could totally see him costing Braun Breaker this championship match. I think Sami Zayn ends up walking out the Intercontinental Champion at the end of the day, unless they do decide to have Chad Gable win Money in the Bank and Gable cashes in on Sami Zayn. That could be a possibility, but, I don't know. I don't really know if WWE are going to decide to have the Money in the Bank winner cash in on the mid-card champion again, like they did with Austin Theory, but you never know. I think it would be a pretty cool idea to see Gable cash in on Sammy and kind of rub it in Otis's face that he successfully cashed in the Money in the Bank contract. Would make a lot of sense, but it may not happen. Sami Zayn may end up just, walking out champion and retaining cleanly against Braun Breaker. So we'll kind of have to, see where that kind of goes as we get further to the pay-per-view or even just at the pay-per-view itself. Seth Rollins and Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. There's a stipulation now to this match, and it's more of a handshake agreement with Seth and Damian. If Seth loses, he can't challenge for the world title as long as Priest is the world champion. But if Priest loses and Seth wins the world championship, he has to leave the Judgment Day. Interesting stipulation. They're kind of adding to this match here between Rollins and Priest. I'm sure if we do more of a prediction show, we can talk about that more in depth. But I do like the stipulation, and it does beg the question, whether they're going to lead to this kind of Judgment Day civil war between maybe, Balor and Dominic and Liv versus Damian, JD, or, kind of vice versa, whatever they could kind of do there to make like a civil war kind of thing with the Judgment Day. But, I think that Damian would probably end up retaining and Seth would get caught somehow. We don't have a set person really that is going to, be taking on the Wyatt Six, and it could end up being Seth Rollins. SummerSlam could be Seth Rollins and Uncle Howdy, which I think would be great. You want to talk about great promos? Taylor Rotunda, Bo Dallas just did a excellent promo on Monday Night Raw that I think a lot of people now are even more interested to see what the Wyatt Six do on Monday. And, a lot of people talked about maybe Pat McAfee being the first target. Pat McAfee wasn't on Monday Night Raw. He had personal issues going on. Unfortunately, I believe it was his father-in-law who passed away, so he was attending to that. It wasn't storyline or anything like that. Like that actually happened, so that's why he wasn't on Raw. I don't think Pat McAfee is going to be wrestling, Uncle Howdy. I also really wouldn't want to see that. I mean, I would want to see Howdy wrestle, somebody to make a first impression on a main event talent. So Seth could be cost the world title from Uncle Howdy, or after the match, Seth could be jumped by the Wyatt Six. So there's a lot of different angles you could go with that, a Seth and Uncle Howdy match. But I'm going off the impression that Seth Rollins does not walk out world champion at Money in the Bank. But, there's a lot of different things, different elements that could happen where Seth does win. I think it's too soon for Damian to lose. If Damian is going to lose, I think SummerSlam's that perfect spot where he drops it to Gunther. I think that's the way we're kind of building to here, because the world title match I think could be Gunther and Priest, while Seth is in another match on the card. You got Punk and McIntyre. The Raw side would look pretty good if that's where we're going to. So, we'll have to see where that kind of goes there. As far as Money in the Bank qualifiers go, we got Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, and Chad Gable in the men's match. We got 2 open spots left. Drew McIntyre is looking to be in that Money in the Bank match, which is another possibility for Drew McIntyre to be Mr. Money in the Bank, or CM Punk cost him the Money in the Bank contract. Could very well happen. We also have the women's Money in the Bank, which has 3 people already qualified: Io Sky, Chelsea Green, and Lyra Valkyria. Out of those names, I could very well see Chelsea Green winning Money in the Bank, although it would be interesting to see Io Sky go back-to-back Money in the Bank wins, just like how CM Punk did in the past. Edge kind of did it, even though Mr. Kennedy won it originally, but it would be kind of cool to see if they did decide to pull the trigger with Io Sky again, but maybe they want to keep Damage Control not at the top of the show as they were before, and give it to someone like Chelsea Green, who has not had the opportunity to really be in a big championship picture, or even Lyra Valkyria. I mean, they want to build up new faces on the show. Lyra Valkyria is a new face on the show, and I think she's done really good work. I like the match she had with Nia Jax for the Queen of the Ring finals. So if that's the case, Lyra Valkyria, I think, would be great in that role. But if that doesn't happen and it ends up going to Io Sky, I'm not going to be mad either. But it is going to be a little hard to predict the men's Money in the Bank match, too. I think both Money in the Bank matches are going to be a little hard to predict because, I could see them wanting to push Carmelo Hayes and Andrade and Gable and Jey Uso. Jey Uso could end up being the Money in the Bank winner. I believe he's one of the covers of Money in the Bank, like the actual PLE itself. So, if Jey Uso end up winning it, he could, cash in on Damian Priest and end up being a world champion, or the bloodline could screw him over in the end. So, there's a lot that can happen with the Money in the Bank. Let's actually talk about the Bloodline too, because we haven't talked about Jacob Fatu making his debut in the WWE. Jacob Fatu, man, Jacob Fatu, incredible, just incredible. I've had the opportunity to see him wrestle lots of times in the old ECW arena, the 2300 arena, and I think at other events too as well outside of that arena. But he was a great champion for MLW. He was a big selling point to MLW when he was under contract, and it's no secret that both companies wanted him. They wanted him badly because Jacob Fatu is a top tier athlete. Jacob Fatu is a solid performer. He legit is the real deal. There were, kind of reports talking about, if Fatu does join the bloodline, does it take the spotlight away? I think Fatu has made such an impact that a lot of people are really interested to see what he does more than Solo and the rest of the bloodline. But I think after people get used to Fatu being on screen, I think they're going to be okay with Solo still being the lead guy in charge. If anything, they could kind of build how, Roman was starting to be scared of Solo. Solo could be scared of Jacob Fatu. So there's a lot of different ways that could go about, what WWE could go about with Jacob Fatu, but he is going to be a big attraction. He's going to be a big guy to really have in WWE because again, that SmackDown felt like an excellent SmackDown. It had so much storyline elements. If I was still doing SmackDown reviews on Fridays, I would have told you after that show it was amazing. It was a great storyline driven show, pushing new talent, pushing the boundaries, and debuting Fatu. There's no bigger way you really can come into the WWE than beating up the champion and two of its biggest stars. And he beat up Cody, he beat up Kevin Owens, and he beat up Randy Orton. That's a pretty good start to a debut in WWE. So, I'm interested to see what they do with Fatu. Now, going back to Money in the Bank. You got Cody, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton versus the Bloodline. The WWE title isn't on the line. I don't know if people are going to complain about that. I'm not going to complain about it because Cody's defended it ever since he's won the belt. So I think that's fine that this is a six-man tag. Given the events that have been going on SmackDown following it up, six-man tag on the pay-per-view isn't a worst idea. And it's not like it's SummerSlam or anything. This is just Money in the Bank. So I think that's fine. Is this match going to turn into a fatal four-way match? There is the possibility of Jimmy Uso coming back. Now, the last we heard was Jimmy Uso was actually hurt and just written off because he did suffer an injury. Now, Jimmy Uso could be added to the side of Cody, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton to make it a 4-on-4 match. And it could be because if you look at the match card poster, you got Cody, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton, and all four members of the Bloodline. So could it be, turned into a 4-on-4 tag team match? Very well could happen, but I'm going to say now that may not happen. And the reason why I'm going to say that it may not happen is due to the fact that I don't think Cody, Owens, and Orton would be up for the idea of trusting Jimmy Uso off the bat. Now, we could see something on SmackDown where Jimmy Uso makes the save and goes after them and actually starts to put a beating on them to show like, hey, I'm against them. And Nick Aldis decides, I'm adding you to the match. You want to get revenge on Solo and your family? You go for it and adds them to the match. I could very well see that happening. But it is going to be in Madison Square Garden. So if Jimmy does show up, he could show up and be added to that match at Money in the Bank later on, next week. It could very well happen, but I just don't know if Cody, Kevin, and Orton would be up for trusting Jimmy Uso, this close in advance to adding him into that match. Logistically, it doesn't really make that much sense. And if Jimmy does come back, after Money in the Bank, do they decide to have Jimmy versus Solo be at SummerSlam? Or, Does Solo wrestle Cody? There's still a lot of what ifs, and some people are still thinking that The Rock is going to be at SummerSlam, which that's a big maybe. So there's a lot of speculation with this. I'm still thinking that Rock and Cody is still going to happen at WrestleMania 41, and that they're going to end up doing something here with maybe Solo and Cody at SummerSlam. I don't know if Roman shows up at SummerSlam either. There's a lot of elements with the Bloodline storyline, but as far as Money in the Bank goes, Jimmy could be added, make it a 4-on-4, or it could just remain a 3-on-3, and the Bloodline decide to do kind of a little, what is it? Not horse. I guess Horseman. Horseman had 4 people, and I was going to say Freebird rule. I think it's called the Freebird rule. Mostly is how it's been in wrestling, but Horseman had 4 people in it, so that also could work as well. And the last thing I wanted to really talk about today was Sika Anoa'i passed away, part of the famous Wild Samoans tag team. He passed away, I believe it was 2 days ago now. I'm not sure when the exact date was, but I can look it up here. I did want to include it in my notes because he is the father of Roman Reigns, like I said, part of the famous Wild Samoans tag team. Especially, we talk about the lineage. Okay, so it was 2 days ago now. It was June 25th, 2024. Talk about the legacy of, the bloodline and just Samoans and wrestling. He was a guy that kind of kickstarted, Samoans being in wrestling. To me, it wasn't really my era of wrestling, so I can't talk about it so much. But when you talk about, professional wrestling, there's a big part of it, and there's still a big part of it. You can see with the bloodline angle of how far this wrestling tradition has lasted with them. And, it's a shame, but he got to live a great life. He was 79, and he got to see a lot of great things. He was able to do a lot of great things. He was able to see his son do a lot of great things. So, condolences to the family, and rest in peace, Sika Anoa'i, as we lost someone that was very big in the world of professional wrestling, but I'm sure also a very big part of the family. So that is going to about do it here for the Scoop Slam Report podcast for today. Talked a lot about some current things. News was a little slow today. It was a little slow today. There wasn't so much speculation kind of going on, but we do got some things going into Money in the Bank I'm excited for. I believe Forbidden Door is this weekend. Let's double check that. Forbidden Door 2024. June 30th, so it is this weekend. I'm not sure if I'm really going to be watching it. I mean, I'm excited to see Swerve and Will Ospreay go at it, but I'm not really sure as far as the other matches go on the card. I haven't really been paying too much attention to All Elite Wrestling right now, but their pay-per-views are always solid. They always put on really good match quality pay-per-views. So I'm excited to see what they do in terms of that regard. So we should be back here next week with the 4th of July edition of the Scoop Slam Report. I appreciate you all so much that have checked out this show from the beginning of episode 1 all the way to 4 now. 4 straight weeks of talking Scoop Slam, professional wrestling here on the Anthony Leonetti Show. Thank you all so much. And I'm going to see you hopefully soon once again on this channel. Make sure to have notifications on. Make sure to like this video. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Memberships are always open, of course, as well as super chats. Appreciate all your support, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Scoop Slam Report. Have a great weekend, everyone. Let's kill it. Let's get out of here.